Somebody else. I'm going to pick 2 more people unless I see hands. Anybody? No? This table's not looking at me. It's a good one to pick then. Did you get anything good on the breakout tables?
Yeah, man. Everyone has issues. We're all trying to, asking questions and all that. And it's a good thing to come to these type of networking groups and to be able to get those answers and know that we're all striving for something bigger.
It's awesome. Come on, give it up for him. One more. I'm going to pick somebody out of the back. Any hands? Anything good? You standing up to speak? What'd you get out of the breakout tables? You volunteer yourself.
Had a great conversation with Centerpoint, very open-minded and wanting to listen to what we were saying and wanting to come up with solutions. So that was awesome.
Awesome. Cool. Give him a hand. All right, guys, we are going to jump into our athlete panel here. Would you guys please help me welcome Mr. Adam House? Come on, put your hands together. No? You coming? You're up. I just introduced you. Talking about you. One more time, make a noise. See, it's what happens when you don't cheer loud enough. You're just not going to come.
Sorry, I got distracted because that's how focused I am. That's the winning mindset that all of you need, that focus. So before we get started, I hope I have our entire STG team in here. So all of us leaders, the best thing we can do is recognize those we lead. So Ryan and I and the other speakers get to come up on the stage and, get the glitz and glamour of it, if that's what you want to call it. But it's really important to see our team, especially Veronica. So any of you out there with people that, yeah, thank you. Let's give it up for Veronica for sure. So she is on the receiving end of 2 visionaries' phone calls for the last 364 days. So, hey, what do you think about this idea? What do you think about that idea? So everyone at STG, if you guys could just stand up as a team, and for our attendees, we could just recognize them. And not just our team, I do want to recognize Ryan and his vision. Not many companies with any brains book their first conference at the Four Seasons. So him and I wrestled over that for the last 364 days, but God showed up, and this is an incredible event. So today, I'm going to invite 2 professional athletes up here, real athletes, not me. Bobby Martin and Jordan, if you guys want to come up here. I think he forgot his Super Bowl ring. That's right. Let's give it up for these guys. Come on. The big man. How we doing? Doing well. You guys look great. Looking great. Looking great. So we'll just start with some introductions. We'll start with Bobby first. So Bobby and I met after I sold my second company. It was a technology company. I had a midlife crisis at the age of 32. It was so my wife told me, she said, hey, if you don't do something you love, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And I said, okay, great. Why don't I try to be a professional basketball player? I played in high school, played a year of college, and that's what all 32-year-olds do. So when I was living in Miami, I was fortunate enough to meet Vince Carter's agent, Merle Scott, and Vince wasn't available. And so he sent me to Bobby and said, hey, Bobby, do you think you can work a miracle? So Bobby, imagine you get this phone call from Vince Carter's agent. In walks me, who I think you thought was the Uber driver. You said, so where's the Adam guy, right? So go ahead and tell that story.
So Merle calls me, and he doesn't give me any dimensions, okay? He just says, look, there's a guy who, he wants to be a professional basketball player. He's just sold his own business. blah, blah, blah. And I say, sure, I'll help him out. And true to form, when Adam walks in, I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So they say never judge a book by the cover, right? And you'll hear about this later on. But my mentor happens to be the best person I've ever met in my life. I love him to death. He has been my father, my brother, and my best educator. Okay. So he happens to be short, bald, and Jewish. Okay. So he's helped me move from being a schmuck to being a mensch. At least that's what he says. So I meet Adam, and never judge a book by the cover. Adam ends up being one of the best people that I've ever met and one of the most intense people I've ever met. Okay. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because there was always a question. How can I do this? How can I do that? And I didn't have any answers. Okay. Sometimes leaders don't have answers. And I just say, okay, well, let's go for it. And his drive, his passion, and talent, okay, because you gotta have some talent.
Limited,
But enough, okay, to find the best within himself. And next thing you know, he takes advantage of guys who have, as athletes, we all sit, and there's a bit of cockiness. We walk on that line of confidence and hubris. So what Adam did was he took advantage of it in the tryouts, and he beats these guys out of spots. And I was like, oh my God, we did it. And that's how I met Adam.
So this isn't supposed to be about me. I just wanted a quick intro, but I appreciate all that, and it is mostly true. So tell us about your basketball career.
My basketball career was long. I've been fortunate. In the beginning, I was failing as a pro. I came out of high school a McDonald's All-American, so that means I was one of the 20 best players in the country. Recruited by every college in the country except for Georgetown, which didn't bother me at all. College was great. I had a great college career, but I didn't get drafted. So I didn't live up to the expectations of the basketball gods. So what happens? I get sent to purgatory. All right, and purgatory are the minor leagues. All right, so now I'm in the minor leagues, and when you go to the club and there's this velvet rope, right, and you got to get past the velvet rope. That was the velvet rope of the NBA. Okay, and I got there, and the bouncer is there looking at me like I got shit on my shoes. Okay, just looking me up and down, and they wouldn't let me in, so I had to find another way to get it done. And luckily, I had my mentor who helped me through it, and I can never repay him for that. How do you repay someone who's meant that much to you? And I'm very fortunate. I was able to have a long career in Spain after that, and now I get to share my message.
I appreciate that. And for Bobby, for sure. And part of the reason we selected Bobby is because of that journey, right? It's not all of us can be Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or, how long would we have had to train for me to be Michael Jordan?
We'd still be training.
Still be training, right? So, it's not everyone's going to have a $100 million company. We saw it on the CEO panel yesterday. Like, what is your calling? What's your vision? And what are you willing to do, to get to that level? And the budget was a little cheaper for Bobby than Michael Jordan. So, Jordan, you and I don't know each other very well, but we met about a week ago. Love to hear your story.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate you having me. And Jordan Norwood. I am an 8-year NFL vet, alum at this point, retired in 2017. But my story started off a little bit different than Bobby's. In terms of high school, I was, you think I'm small now. I was 5'9", like 140 pounds my senior year of high school. So not highly recruited. And I ended up going to Penn State and playing as a freshman in all 4 years. But there was an individual when I was in high school who was a coach at Penn State at the time that at 5'9", 140 pounds, he pulled me aside and said, "Jordan, you can play Division I football if you want to." And it was literally at that point, I had never even thought about, I knew I was a good football player, a good athlete in general, played basketball also, but it was that coach that inspired me to have the confidence in myself that I didn't have, may not have had previous to that. So that's the beginning of my story. Ended up playing, like I said, all 4 years at Penn State, also going undrafted into the NFL. Decided to go to the Cleveland Browns as an undrafted free agent, which, okay. Yeah, I was expecting that reaction. But no, I went to the Cleveland Browns, and it just, in retrospect, I mean, it worked out. But they drafted 2 receivers, and as an undrafted guy, you kind of have options. You can go, they pay you that $75 signing bonus, and you can go wherever you want. So I go to Cleveland. I end up getting cut my rookie year. I go to Philadelphia for their practice squad. There that whole rookie season. The next year I get cut in Philadelphia. I go back to Cleveland, get cut, or don't get cut. I get moved up to the active roster from practice squad, get hurt. I mean, so I played 8 years in the NFL. I probably played probably 3 years, 3 or 4 years really, just from injuries, getting cut. So a lot of, knocked down, getting back up. But by the time I was my 6th year in the NFL, I found myself starting in Denver, lining up next to Emmanuel Sanders and good friend Demaryius Thomas at wide receiver, with Peyton Manning at quarterback, and just kind of how did I get here moment, right? But we go on to win the Super Bowl that year, and I can dive in a little bit more to some of those details as we talk here. I'm sure it will come up.
Well, I was going to say you breezed over Peyton Manning as quarterback, just kind of like I had Starbucks this morning. So Peyton Manning, okay, is a teammate, and I couldn't help but notice the blinding lights in front of me, but also you got something on your hand there that looks really, really expensive. You want to talk to us about that moment, that journey, when you got there? I mean, just tell us about that experience.
Sure, yeah, I would love to. I mean, so when I got to Denver and we won the Super Bowl in Denver, the Denver Broncos, we played the Carolina.
All right, can we clap for that? This guy has a Super Bowl ring on. Okay, like that does not happen.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, getting to Denver, that was 2014 when I first got to Denver. I had come off a year, 2013, I actually didn't play football at all. So I came out of college in 2009. Had all those getting cut by Philadelphia and Cleveland several times each. And then in 2013, I got cut or in 2012, actually, I was on IR in Cleveland. So I didn't play the 2012 season. 2013, I ended up getting cut in Cleveland, and then out of football that entire season. So 12, 13, I didn't play. 14, I just kind of get a contract with Denver, try out for their team, doing really well in training camp. Peyton Manning pulls me aside after every practice and is like, "Hey, I want you to do this." I'm like, I might make this team. And Peyton's, pulling me aside. And I was going to make the team, had a great training camp. Then I tear my ACL. So 13, 14, or 12, 13, 14, all 3 of those years I didn't play. Not one snap, IR, cut, back on IR. So nobody really had high expectations for me, right, coming into 2015, other than myself. But yeah, that was the year we went to the Super Bowl. Obviously, ended up making the team, being the 3rd wide receivers with those other 2 guys that I mentioned earlier, and just an incredible blessing. I mean, thankful for the coaches that I had. I had a coach at Denver also that pulled me aside after I tore my ACL. Hey Jordan, don't worry, you're gonna bounce back, man. Like you're gonna bounce back. ACLs are, I mean, he also said ACLs are nothing now. Like the surgeries are great, and the trainers will get you right. But I had somebody take time out of their day, and I mean, his name's Coach Knapp. He actually passed away in a crazy bike accident about a year ago. So rest in peace to him also. But he pulled me aside and took the time to say, "Hey, don't worry about it. You're a great player. You're gonna bounce back. Just do what you got to do with the trainers." And physical therapist, and you'll be right back where you were. So just great. I mean, as I think back, great coaches that, really encouraged me at the right times.
I don't know if your agent is Edward Scissorhands, but that's a lot of cuts. That's all I heard were cuts. Cut. That was good. I was like, that's all I could focus on. So that was pretty good. Come on. Is that good? Edwards, that's a lot of cuts. A lot of cuts. That's my last joke, I promise. So, Bobby, tell us how you dealt with comparison. So you're coming up as an athlete, scouting reports, recruiting. How'd you help yourself stand out, and how'd you deal with keeping your mind focused?
So it definitely went in stages. I think that growing up, I'm from Atlantic City, New Jersey, and growing up, we used to always see the Sixers. So I grew up watching Dr. J, Moses Malone, and you have dreams of becoming those guys. But this was before I was any good at basketball. So my early comparisons or my early heroes were Nicky Giovanni, Paul Lawrence Dunbar, Langston Hughes, Walt Whitman. I was a reader, okay? And I love reading about Greek mythology also, which I'll get into later. But my grandmother, she didn't graduate high school. And my mother died right after I turned 1 year old, and I never knew my father. So my grandmother, of course, had me into the books. And because she didn't graduate, she used to always tell me, do not compare yourself to anyone else. You are you. Everyone else is taken. Okay, so you've got to figure out who you're going to be. And I think that helped me. It helped me in the beginning, but as I got a little bit older, I didn't exhibit the passion that everybody else said I was supposed to have. I just knew that I'm not playing for a coach. This is me. This is my dream. And when I'm playing bad, nobody can console me. And the girlfriends that I had knew it. I said, look, before there was before there was you, there was basketball. So I'm gonna do this. No, I'm not going there. And it's just something you learn to accept. Everyone else has so many expectations of you that if you don't meet your own expectations, then you're out of luck. You're not gonna go very far. So I set my own expectations with the help of my mentors.
And how have you used that same mindset and discipline after your career?
I try. I'm not always successful with it because I'm moving into new territory. So when you're moving into new territory, it means I need to grow more. And growth is uncomfortable. Again, I go back to my mentor. What he asked me was, what's your growth plan? It's funny. He introduced me to Ayn Rand, okay? And one of my heroes is a fictional hero, but this is, Howard Rourke, okay? And I'm reading about Rourke and him fighting through his own adversity. You've got all the people around him who want him to be a certain way. I don't know if I'll ever meet the expectations of anybody else. I just know that there's something inside of me that I have to bring out. And it's a continual process every day. And God knows it's hard. It's hard. I'm sitting here in front of you. I don't have clean hands. I don't know anybody that does. They say never meet your heroes. Well, no, it's true. You keep fighting, you keep improving, and that's where I try to stay in that zone.
That's good. And Jordan, same question to you. So I know I made the joke about the cuts, but I mean, that is not an easy journey. And you kept moving forward, and you translate that to the workplace. How many people out here would go from job to job to job and still pressing on? Some people change vocations, they try different roles within organizations, but you just kept moving forward. How did you manage that, and what were some of the things that kept you going?
Sure. I think for me, it always came back to, this is something we say in sports quite a bit, but finding your why. Why was I putting myself through this, pain and discomfort? and continuing to move on, continuing to try out for football teams. After seemingly, or not seemingly, after having people tell me that they don't want me on their team, they don't want me, in this league. It felt like. So really defining that why for me is what encouraged me to keep going. That was, it can change, but for me it was always just my faith. Always trying to honor God with the way I push through something, or practiced, or the type of teammate I was. So that was always my why, but that didn't mean it was any easier, right? And just like you said, I think there's typically some pain involved with growth. Fortunately, in pro sports and in sports in general, you get to feel that pain physically, so you actually know that you're growing. So I think it's actually a little harder sometimes, maybe in business, or some of the things that I've experienced since I transitioned out of playing pro sports is, you can't identify it as pain right away. It takes some really, self-reflection, or maybe a great coach or mentor to identify, like, you're going through some hard stuff right now. Do you realize that? You're growing, you're stretching yourself right now. Do you realize that you're growing? And you don't feel that as much as lifting weights in the weight room, or running and feeling yourself growing as an athlete. So I just encourage you guys to do some of that self-reflection and lean on your mentors and coaches that you have.
Yeah, you missed it last night. Jamie Winship was talking to us about identity. And I don't know about anyone in this room, but I woke up this morning and I had no idea who I was. So it was, fear, love. I'm just sitting in the mirror. What am I talking, going like, who am I? So it's just like, how did you maintain that sense of identity in it? It's not just, the failures, but also the successes. How did you keep kind of on that path?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, throughout my NFL career specifically, it was surrounding myself with good people as much as I could, whether that was family or friends. And sometimes I failed at that, especially early in my career. And I think a lot of guys honestly go through that early in their NFL or NBA or pro sports careers, where they're, young, impressionable 20, 21-year-old individuals, and just dropped in a random city by themselves, handed a buttload of cash too, and how do you maintain your identity in a situation like that? It's if each of you kind of took a look at yourselves and question how you would act and who you would be in that literal situation of 21 years old, dropped in Cleveland, Ohio, by yourself, trying to make a football team, also handed some money. How would you act? Who would you be? Who would you want to be? We would all say sober-minded that we would want to be the same person. We would want to treat people the same way that we treat them now, and all that. But it's there needs to be some grounding there. There needs to be some foundation. You need to know your why, and lean on that. Maybe write it down. And it was it's challenging.
So being an athlete, competitor, very similar to, business, sales leadership. What's some of the dark side of being an athlete and competitor, not only for yourself, but those around you?
Okay, again, I'm only speaking from my experience. I've been on the dark side. I know exactly what it feels like. Personal story. So I'm on my second marriage. My first marriage, wonderful woman. We share a son together. Right now, he's in the Navy. He's training to be a SEAL. When he sees this tape, he'll know that the applause is for him. Okay. I asked for my divorce. Okay. And you can imagine how that went. It was because I wasn't ready to be married. I fell in love with the idea of being in love. And it crushed my first wife, absolutely crushed her. And sometimes I still pay for it today. All right. Now, we have a great relationship now because we've We worked together to raise a wonderful son. But I wasn't who I needed to be. I was reading a quote by Zig Ziglar, and he said, you have to be before you can do, and do before you can have. And applying that to life, I had to be the person that my first wife needed. Again, passing through the years, look, you can, I've been in the clubs, all right? I've been both saint and sinner. I am both. What I had to learn is how to take control of everything that I am. I couldn't just put it away and deny it. No, this is me. But what I learned as I matured is, you know what? I control me. You know, not my feelings, okay? Not somebody else's expectations, but what was I willing to do in order to become the best version of myself? And what does that mean? Everybody, we've got dreams, right? But dreams cost. They cost a lot. John Maxwell says that there's a difference between the cost and the price, right? You got to pay the price, but the cost is forever. So every day, look, and I tell my kids this, the kids that I talk to, you're not going to have somebody this good looking every day to talk to you, all right? Who's had my experiences. You're just not going to have that. And they laugh and when we joke. And what I see them going through today it's heart-wrenching. Because they spend so much time, especially athletes, they spend so much time worried about the lights that surround them that they never get a chance to develop the light within themselves. So with my two daughters, I remember that I've been on the dark side. Now I got to go through stories with them. And they're going to see that their daddy was not perfect, all right? But he's still working. So the dark side, what it is, you can choose your vice. It can be alcohol, it can be women, it can be, well, I guess alcohol is technically a drug. It can be any of those things, and I've experienced them all. And but none of them has been as satisfying as recognizing the God within myself, because that allowed me to recognize the God within the people that I meet. So, you know, it's rough, but you work at it, you come out on top.
Jordan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, one thing that you mentioned I love is just counting the cost is so important of no matter what you're doing. But as far as, you know, some of the darker moments that I've either personally experienced or, well, let's just stick with my personal experience. It's kind of this notion that, you know, I wanted so badly to make a football team first and foremost, to be a contributor on the football team. And, you know, it comes with this counting the cost conversation is, you know, what is the cost there? Because these things come with a certain platform, usually a platform of praise, right? When you win a Super Bowl, you guys, you don't know who I am, but you clap for me because I have the Super Bowl ring on, and that's why part of why I got invited here. So it comes with this platform. Literally, I'm on one. And at the same time, especially in pro sports, if you don't perform well, then it's a great platform for people to, you know, throw the tomatoes at you too. And that can cause some seriously dark times to come home from a bad game and have 12 and 13-year-olds just going in on you on Twitter is actually it's kind of difficult because you don't know how old they are, and they won't come meet you at the gas station to talk about it. So, but you know, I'm still getting over some things. But I mean, seriously, I mean, it can cause and has caused for me sometimes when I question who I am, sometimes when I question my why am I still doing this? And it comes back to the foundation and, you know, the good people that I've had around me. My wife late in my career that I, met in Denver, and we got married, and, her as my support system, and my parents and friends. So that support system for me was so important. People that could point me back in the right direction, point me back to, God in my situation. It's just, just an intangible benefit to have.
Yeah, so I think about my career in business, and a lot of people like to talk about obsession, and obsession does create blindness. And you can not only, bring destruction to yourself, but also, those people around you. And so we look at leaders and athletes and see, all the success that they've had. But, we've talked about the cost. Everything you do, there's a reaction and an action. There's an impact to the decisions that you make. I remember in 2010, when I was just about to sell my technology company, I was in New York City, and Bill Joel, who's been my best teammate, joined us here at STG for the last 13 years. We're now on our third venture together, but every leader needs a great teammate. And Bill's that kind of guy, just kind of goes with whatever needs to be done. But when the right thing needs to be said and spoken into my life, I pay attention. And so in 2010, we had just closed a deal with the USGA to do mobile scoring for the upcoming USGA event. And I got a phone call, walked out of the meeting. It was a voicemail. And my dad was, an alcoholic, and his wife, third or fourth, was paralyzed from the neck down in an accident. And so for 8 years, he took care of her. I won't get into that story now, but got the phone call, and I just assumed, the nurse said, "Oh, your dad fell in the driveway." So I'm like, "Oh, great. Dad's drunk. He's in the driveway, fell down." And, we go to our next meeting. She calls again. I call back, and she's like, "Adam, I just want to let you know, your dad just died of a heart attack." And I was like, "Okay, thanks." And then went and sat down for lunch with Bill and our chief technology officer. And, I was like, "Yeah, hey, my dad just died. What'd you guys order for lunch?" And I'm not like the easiest guy to say, like, "Hey, Adam, maybe you need to wake up. Like, something's wrong here." And so they're just, sitting there looking at me, and I'm like, "Yeah, how's everything going?" And went and ended up closing 2 more deals. And then I walk out of the meeting, and I'm standing in the middle of Times Square, and Bill finally looks at me and he said, "Adam, your dad died. You need to go home." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay." So, the point of that story is that obsession can create blindness, and it can hurt the people around you. I mean, you can be so focused. I was so in the zone and ready to, close deals and grow this business, and, wasn't even aware of, what was really going on around me. So it's that struggle that we all go through of, striving and growing, but then also understanding the cost and the impact of, the people around you. So the other thing I want to talk about with you is, how did you overcome your fears?
Okay, so I'm still a little confused about this, because, again, I grew up in Atlantic City. I think that fear is necessary. It's my own personal opinion, because if you don't understand what malevolence is, then you're going to be taken advantage by it. This world is, it's not the dream that we would like it to be. There are realities to it, and we have to recognize them. In sports, we say, there is no fear, but you know what fear I had? I think it was healthy, because I was afraid that I wouldn't give my best. I think teamwork is overrated. Not that it isn't necessary, but if you are not willing to give your best to a team, basketball, and I say sports in general, is an individual sport where you give yourself to a team dynamic. You better give it all. Don't tell me you missed. I'm not talking about missing the shot. I'm talking about missing your assignment. I'm in Boston right now, so I get a chance to, listen to Bill Belichick, and he always says, "Do your job," right? And I like that. You got to do your job. Don't give me any excuses. It's all right if you make a mistake. It's okay if you're afraid. That's why I'm your teammate, because I will help. I will pick you up. We will walk across this finish line together. But dude, you got a job to do, because I'm damn sure doing mine. So I think that for me, there is a little bit of fear. I'm afraid that I won't be the father that I need to be for my daughters. Quick story about my son. So he's in a private school. And again, he's in the Navy right now. But he's graduating he graduated from Rice University. And before that, he was in a private school up in Boston. And I get an email from his teacher saying that he hasn't turned in an assignment. Now, he's in New Hampshire and I'm in Boston. So I get in the car because I'm heated. And I told him, I'm not sending you to that school for you to be messing around. So I get in the car and I drive up there and I call the coach, because now you need fobs to get into building and things like that, right? So I call the coach and say, I'm coming. Where's my son? She says, I'll make sure he's around. I'll make sure he's around. So I get there. And of course, he's in the gym with his buddies. And he sees me coming. So he walks out the other door. I walk in, and I ask the kids, where's my son? And he went that way. So I walk back out the other way around. And I see him, and he's looking at me like, oh, Dad, what are you doing here? Oh, my goodness. So I grab him by the throat. And I'm younger. I was younger then. I'm improving. So I grab him by the throat, and I'm like, I will bury you. Why is your professor emailing me and telling me that you haven't handed in your assignment? And my son is 6'6", and he's strong. So he's got my arm, and he's trying to pull my hand off, and I'm squeezing tighter because I'm like, I can't let him win. So I'm squeezing tighter, and he's like, Dad, let me go. I'm like, again, man, I will bury you. You don't have the right to do this because you got my name. Everybody up here knows me. So I take him and I throw him in the bushes. And so
I had no choice but to make the pro basketball team. So when and after hearing this is the story he told me when we met. If you don't show up for the workout, I'm going to bury you. So,
by the way,
All
I
I
don't
can
have
see
a
is-
T-shirt that fits. Okay, just saying, I don't have a T-shirt that fits. I want one.
T-shirt.
So his boys, and I'm not going to say half the population of the school, but there are a lot of people outside at this point. And they're looking at him, and they're looking at me. The coach looks at me, turns his head, and walks the other way. And I tell him, and this is a holiday weekend. This is like Martin Luther King holiday or something like that. And I tell him to pack your stuff. We're going home. So I make him, he said, well, what do I pack? I said, everything. So he packs his stuff, and he's got to walk probably 30 yards across the field or whatever it was. He packs it, he comes back, and his boys don't help him bring it across because they don't want any parts of me either. So to make a long story short, I'm gonna land the plane. He gets to the Navy, and this is probably 5 or 6 months ago. I'm sorry, 4 months ago. And he says, Dad, they're commending me on my discipline. Thank you. So sometimes I had to be his father, not his friend.
Amen to that. And then Dad, on fear.
Sure. So I'm scared.
I'm scared. I think everyone in the room is
Okay.
scared.
Just got to get that out of the way. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, overcoming fear, and that was the question, right?
Yes.
Overcoming.
Not caused fear. I think I misspoke. Everyone's scared, and I think they're making you a triple extra large T-shirt right now in the back. So, okay.
Yeah, for me, overcoming fear has always been how do you relate to it. You know, and I'll briefly just kind of talk about when I tore my ACL in Denver in 2014. I was fearful. I was uncertain after the 2 previous years being out of football because 2 teams already believed that I wasn't good enough to be in the league. I assumed as soon as I tore my ACL, I assumed that my career was probably over. But I quickly, kind of leaned back onto my foundation and had, that group of people around me that, helped me out quite a bit and supported me. But how did I relate to that fear, and what could I use there that was resourceful to get me back on track and back, towards my original vision for myself, and that's playing in the National Football League. So I think, to answer directly, I think overcoming fear is reimagining it, reframing it, finding the resourcefulness of whatever situation that is that's making you fearful. And for me, in that particular situation, it was, okay, I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen. But if I would have got cut here in Denver, I would have just went home and trained at home. But I tore my ACL here in Denver, so now I have the opportunity to stay here. I can still go to all the meetings, learn the playbook better than I would have if I was playing, because that's all I'm doing is just learning the playbook. Be in the facility all day, get to know the coach. There's a huge opportunity there for me because I tore my ACL, right? That I wouldn't have had otherwise, or maybe it just would have been different otherwise. But I think reframing fear into, what is the resource here? What can I dig out of this that'll propel me forward to my vision? Is something that you can use to overcome fear. So
That was really good. And yesterday on the CEO panel, we talked about, some of the disciplines that great people do or great leaders do in the morning. And I've started in the morning just writing down my fears, because it's the things that I'm afraid of that make me want to be great. Like they're a great source of inspiration if you can see them through the right lens. And so we all want to run from fear and run from who we think we're not, but it's not going away, and the fear is going to be there, and the faster you embrace it. So I'd encourage you, today or anytime, just start writing down your fears. I mean, getting it on paper, seeing it, and then what is the worst thing that can happen? If that happens, then what? What is the next thing? If, Jordan would have said, if I get cut, it's, then it's over. He just took it as, okay, if I get cut, I'm going to make another team. And then, eventually winning a Super Bowl. So if you're not in sports or haven't been an athlete, I mean, what these two guys have accomplished is like one out of hundreds of millions of people that pick up a football or pick up a basketball, and just the perseverance, the character, the integrity, and just the vulnerability that you guys are, sharing with the audience here. I mean, it's impacting me, and hopefully everyone here as well. So a couple more things is, we talked about teammates a little bit. Peyton Manning, just brushed over. Peyton Manning was my quarterback. So cool, really is. Tell us, I'm assuming he's probably, not to say one teammate is better than another, but tell us what it was like to be Peyton Manning's teammate and how he influenced you.
Yeah, he's on. I mean, it was great. First of all, incredible leader, incredible teammate on a personal level, also. And he's somebody that, on the football field, like I mentioned earlier, he's somebody that would pull you aside and give you one-on-one attention, whether it was because he wanted you to, feel special and feel appreciated, or it was because he wants to win the football game and he wants you to know exactly, the game plan and his plan, what he's thinking, so that you're on the same page. So in terms of X's and O's, those were great. I'm sure for him. I received those little conversations more, on an intimate, okay, he's giving me confidence. He's showing me that he's confident in me, type of level. But, I mean, just a great teammate and great individual. He's somebody that takes the time to get to know someone. And he's a lot like Joe Paterno, who coached me in college. Somebody that would come out of nowhere and just know things about you that you didn't even know about yourself. For example, Peyton Manning once, he pulled me aside and said, hey, you know, how's your little brother doing? I'm like, why, what's going on with my little brother? He's like, oh, I heard he sprained his wrist, didn't he? I'm like, how do you even know my brother? So my brother played college football at Baylor University. He was a wide receiver also. So while I was in Denver playing, he had gotten hurt, I guess. and Peyton, you know, picked it up and took the time to come find me and ask me how my brother's doing, who we had never had a conversation about. And you know, I think just little things like that are things that you know, make a person appreciate someone else so much. You know, people that take the time to you know, have a personal relationship. So it was awesome and something I cherish.
And as that translates into the business world, remember yesterday, Steve Little talked about, you know, just the health situation and their company, and everybody knew about it. So I'm actually going to ask you guys to do something. I know some of you are already on your cell phones, but I didn't have this plan. But it's really important to speak life into your teammates. And so, you know, or just people around you. You know, Bobby, him and I met, 13 years ago. We stay in touch. You know, we text when we think of it. He talks about Wayne, his mentor, people that impacted your life. So I'm going to ask everybody to take out their cell phones right now. Hopefully you guys don't mind doing this, a little out of the box. But I'm going to ask you to text an employee, team member, boss, coach, friend, anybody, and just thank them for the impact that they've made in your life. And that's one of the things that's helped shape my career is relationships, staying in touch with people, honoring people, respecting those around me. You know, from my very first job at Rocket Mortgage, you know, Dan Gilbert, you know, maybe 100 employees at the time. Stayed in touch with him. He still responds to my emails. You know, Wayne Huizinga, just, you know, different mentors, relationships, staying in touch with them. So I appreciate you guys doing that, because this is a team sport. Business is a sport, and there's a winner and a loser. And, you know, being the biggest company or doing the most revenue doesn't necessarily make you the winner. And so Jordan talked about his why, right? And once you know your why, then you can define your win. And is your win creating a culture of, you know, success? Is it creating a team culture, a caring culture, doing the right thing? You know, whatever your core values are, you know, that's what your win is. And so I'm definitely not a kumbaya guy, like just sit around and try to think about why. Like, you know, you do need to get to work, and you do need to win and compete and produce. But I think having that win defined for you, and again, they're all different. Everybody's win is different. You know, it's being the best father, being the best friend, best husband, spouse. It's important to know your why and what that win is. So, talking about coaches, I heard another name that you brushed over very conveniently that you played for at Penn State. Can you tell us about that coach?
Sure. Yeah, so I played 4 years of Penn State football for Joe Paterno. And yeah, just, I mean, I was mentioning them in reference to Peyton, how they were kind of similar. But yeah, I mean, just an incredible coach. Somebody who, when I was at Penn State, he was 83 years old, I think. So, you know,
Wow.
it's kind of, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's somebody that would grab somebody by the throat also. So I was scared of him also. But
And he's not a very big guy either, right?
no, I mean, he's a little taller than me. He's taller than you would think.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not that tall, but
Right.
you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Somewhere between you and Bobby.
yeah, in
okay.
between, closer to me.
Got it. Yeah.
But no, I think it was just amazing that Joe at 83 years old. Well, not only that, I mean, I don't he had a football career, as a college athlete, a student athlete at Brown University, but I mean, he wasn't an all-star, all of those things. And it's interesting to me, and always has been, that somebody that, can't get out there on the field and show you, though Joe Paterno would try to do that every day, that can't get out there on the field and show you, kind of mirror verbatim what you should do or what you should say, how you should run a pass route or something, how well they can coach somebody. And I was always amazed by Joe, and also cherished that time at Penn State. But yeah, I think he was a great coach. I mean, one of the best I ever played for and had the chance to be coached by.
So why do great athletes need coaches?
It's a great question, because they definitely need them. I mean, everybody needs to. I think part of it is remembering the basics. So why does Peyton Manning, or any NFL player for that matter, why, when you get to that level, the highest level, in your industry, do you still need somebody to tell you what to do, remind you of the basics, all of those things? And I think a big part of it, especially in football, and in business, is that this is a team sport. I can't just go out there and do what I do without a coach, putting me in the right position, because he also knows what this guy over here is doing, and he knows that we're going to meet at some point, and get the team all on the same page. So I think the team aspect is very important, and that's what coaches do. They manage teams, and they make sure that the foundational, basic skill sets are there.
Anything, Dan?
I've found over the years that my best coaches, it wasn't necessarily the technique and the physical things that I was doing, but it was my mental approach to what needed to be accomplished. I think coaches, their first job is to keep you in the present, right? Because as athletes, what are we doing? We are, as regular people, we're always thinking about the past or what could happen in the future. And a coach is a leader, and that leader has to help you define reality. Because I'm thinking one way, he's thinking another, and not depend on him to give me clarity. I heard that word earlier today. And I get a lot of parents who come to me asking me to train their kids and help them with their confidence. And, most of the time their kids have, they just shot 1 for 17. They don't lack confidence. What they lack is clarity. Okay, you don't have 17 shots. Okay, you've got 4 at most, 5 if you're on fire. Okay, because you got a team out there to play with. So we need clarity as athletes, because we are anything but realistic. Okay, it's like that. I don't know how many of you watched Dumb and Dumber. Okay, with Jim Carrey. Okay, and you remember the part where he's talking to the girl, and he's like, well, what are my chances of getting a date with you, right? 1 in 100, and she goes 1 in a million. He's like, so there's a chance, right? That's the way we think. That's what we do. And if we don't have someone to rein us back in, we can go off the rails really quickly.
I love the Dumb and Dumber quote. I wasn't expecting that. That was awesome. So Bobby, what are you doing now? What's kind of for you after basketball?
My first job, my most important job, is to be a great father and husband. Thank you. With that, my first responsibility is become the best me possible. And look, if I was in college and you asked me who I was, I would say it depends on what drink I was on. Okay. So I don't know if I ever get to know myself. I think that's a journey that you have to take throughout a lifetime. And at the end, that's when you add up the tally, right? But right now, what I'm doing is I get a chance to, I still coach athletes, but my coaching is now more not toward the technique side, but more of the mental and emotional processes that it takes to actually find the best in yourself. Again, I'm looking at AAU basketball, okay? And I'm looking at the next highlight tape. What I'm doing is I'm trying to rein the kids back in so I can help them discover who they are. It's not about the cameras, okay? It's about the insight that they have to know that everything they need, they have within. I just try to help them develop it. So again, I'm training the physical part, and right now I'm transitioning into being able to go out and speak. Adam, you mentioned speaking life into something. Well, again, this is part of being a coach, right? There was a guy, Johann von Goethe, right? He's a German philosopher. And he said, I hope somebody looks at you with the eyes where they see you. But actually, no, goes, when you look at a person the way they are, everything gets worse. But look at them as if they were what they could be, and they become what they should be. This is our responsibility. It's my responsibility. Every day I wake up, and we had shared the biblical quote the other day. I like Isaiah 55:11, right? Así sea la palabra que sale de mi boca, right? The words that come out of my mouth, okay? Que no volverá a mí vacía, right? That they will not come back to me empty. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take my word, I'm going to place it into somebody else so that they prosper, okay? That's how we give back. We have to help them prosper. And as I help them prosper, I get better. That's what I do. So I want to share. I want to share with these young children out here and help them realize that they're better than they ever dreamed they could be.
That's awesome. And seriously, and I just want to speak some life into you. So you helped me accomplish my dream. And I know you're going to help thousands of other people accomplish theirs. And you're a great father, a great friend, and a great teammate. And it's an honor to have you up here. Appreciate it. Thank you. Jordan, what are you up to?
Yeah, so I am a father and husband also, chasing a 6 and 5-year-old around every day. So excited about that, but also transitioning into being a business owner. So I retired in 2017 after 8 years in the NFL, and quickly transitioned into a photography business that I started with my wife, realizing quickly that I was too intense for photography with my wife. That was a hey, let's shoot this wedding. Hey babe, you have the shot list clipped to your belt buckle? Do you have 30 batteries charged in your back pocket? Like, are you ready? So just a little too intense for my wife on that one, but but we do still. I've learned from that. I have learned, and we work pretty well together now. But also own a business, a blockchain business that I started a year ago. I'm the founder and a CEO. So learning, fearful, right? I'm finding out what does it look like to be a leader in a new space after playing 3 decades of competitive athletics. So. I think that for me, and I always think of the word fear connected to the word resource, like, this is a new space for me, being a founder, and we're going through doing a capital raise right now. So what does that mean? What does that look like? It comes with this, curiosity that you just can never stop having, especially when you're fearful. That should open up some space for curiosity. What's going on? I need to be a student all over again. I need to be a rookie all over again. Just not relating to the situation as fear or anything like that has been useful. And I'm learning what it looks like to be a business owner and a founder and CEO and leading men and women in our company.
Well, thank you both. This was super powerful.
Can I say one more thing?
Is it violent?
No, it's not violent. It's not
Can I
violent.
say no? I don't.
It's not violent.
Just talk, bro. I'm not gonna tell you no. Just talk.
No, it's really quick. I'm not sure how many of you out here have children, but I want to say this. Words are important. The way we speak to our children is extremely important. I don't always say the right things, but I say it with the right intent, and I'm working on being better at it. But one of the definitions that I give to my daughters and my son, who I taught, is that the definition of sacrifice is, to me, giving up something that's worth less. What do I mean by that? My kids chose to play basketball. I chose to play basketball. You chose to enter into whatever venue that is. Because you have to get up in the morning is not a sacrifice. Because you have to work your ass off just to make ends meet is not a sacrifice. This is the road we chose. Okay? So doing this is important to us because we choose it. We have clarity. So sacrifice isn't doing what you're supposed to do. Sacrifice is giving up what you're supposed to do in order to do something that makes no sense. I don't sacrifice. I don't ask anyone to sacrifice for me. Let's just walk together. So please share that message with your children, because they have this nauseating idea that things are supposed to be easier than they believe they should be. Okay?
That's good. Good. I've got time for some questions. So do we have a microphone we can use for questions? Anyone? Yeah. All right. I'll just walk around. Does anyone have a question for Bob? He just scaring me right there. So I just having flashbacks of him and yelling at me in the gym. So does anyone have any questions for Bobby or Jordan? Of course. I'll start here.
Thank you, guys. First of all the stuff that you've done, you've had to overcome a lot of adversity. What are some tools, practical tools that you've used to overcome some difficulties in adversity? Like things that you tell yourself in your head to get over those things.
Yeah, for me, practically for me, it's prayer and meditation. It's getting to this very sober-minded, leaving emotions out the door, and sober-minded. Who am I? For me, it's who does God say I am? But getting back to the root of why I'm doing what I'm doing, meditating on that, and really meditating on the identity piece. Really, for me, is always grounding and comforting.
Thank you.
For me, I'm going to say that search out a mentor. It's hard to see what's in front of you. What do they say? It's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame. I need people around me. I trust them to tell me about myself. And I'm a willing learner. Leaders listen first, right? So if I am going to lead, the first person I've got to lead is myself. I've got to challenge myself all the time and say, remember, Caesar, thou art mortal.
Powerful. Thank you.
Over here, Adam.
Good question. Anyone else?
Hey, Jordan. I
Yo.
see a real big Browns fan over here. Me and Ryan, huge Browns fans.
Just you and
Did you
Ryan?
say Steelers? What?
No, not
No.
Steelers.
Oh.
Man. So this is a football question for you. So I was able to watch you play football, season ticket holder of the Browns. Really growing up as a Browns fan has helped me with sales because I know how to be disappointed all the time.
Wow.
But no, this is not against Jordan. He was just a small part of this, But anyways, so I was thinking about watching you play, and one of the plays I remember vividly is Colt McCoy. By the way, you're on one of the favorite Browns teams for me growing up. I mean, that was like senior year of high school, 2011-12 for me, and Colt McCoy, Phil Dawson, DeQuell Jackson, yourself, Greg Little, I'm not too big fan of him, but some other TJ Wards, just so many good players to me at that time. And I remember you guys were playing Jacksonville, and we ended up winning that game, by the way, everybody. But playing Jacksonville, and you came across the middle, Colt McCoy hit you. It had to be probably one of the longest catches of your career in the NFL. And to me, it seemed like Greg Little tackled you. And I just wondered, it's like, did he actually tackle you? Or?
I didn't know what he was doing. So this play, I mean, I know exactly what play you're talking about.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's kind of
like,
hilarious.
I don't know what he was doing either. He was just like,
he was running right at me.
yeah.
I was gonna score a touchdown, and so Greg Little was one of my teammates. We're on the same team, and he was just running straight at me. And I'm like, "What are you doing, man?" And he like clipped my, he tackled me.
Okay.
Is the answer to your question?
Okay. Awesome.
He didn't come up in the great teammate conversation, but he was a pretty good friend though. Yeah.
Okay. Well, he did tackle. I'm glad I have some closure now.
There you go. No problem.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you guys for your time, man. You guys are awesome. I just had a question about mentors. It's something I've thought about a lot. How do you approach someone when you think they're great and you want them to mentor you, but you don't want to seem like, what can you offer them in return?
That's a good question. In my sports career, there was a lot of mentors at my disposal, I guess. Right? I mean, I'm in a locker room. There's a couple rookies next to me, and then there's also, when I was in Cleveland, there was a guy named Josh Cribbs, who was an awesome NFL, just football player in general, but he was a wide receiver that kind of took me under his wing. He was also undrafted. So he felt the onus to, pay it forward, right? So it was kind of easy. And maybe it's that way in your business. Maybe you have, people that are senior to you or younger than you, who knows, but that you see that you can learn something from. I think it starts with humility. You standing up and asking the question shows that you have the humility to be able to ask somebody, if they want to grab lunch or grab coffee, and start from there. But what I've learned since I finished my NFL career on mentors and coaching, honestly, is that I have to be intentional about it. There isn't somebody sitting next to me in my locker room that I can just tap on the shoulder and say, hey, can you show me how to do this or that? So, I mean, out of my curiosity of wanting to be a leader and wanting to, lead this company and that I'm starting, I've actually hired an executive coach that has helped me a ton. And I consider him a mentor also at this point, and a friend. So
I think that you're always prepared to admit that you're no longer the smartest person in the room. But I say, if you think you are, find another room, right? My experience is that mentors have always been gracious to me because I've showed a willingness to learn. It's like making a cold call, right? Some people are going to say no for whatever reason, but when you find that person that says yes, it's like the heavens open up, right? And you are sitting there and you're learning, and at that point, you keep growing. And you find another mentor because, everybody, different levels require different strengths, right? You've got to keep growing. So I think your mentors grow with you. But just go ask. Just go ask, man. Look, me, 6'9", black. It was hard for me to go ask for help. I'm an athlete, right? And I told you, my mentor is Adam size.
I'm taller and I have better hair.
So, okay, he's got better hair, but there's no one in the world that I would want more than the mentor that I have right now. I think Jamie was talking about it last night. Jamie said that, there were so many famous people in the world, but the people that mentored him, his teachers, knew it They just need everybody else to know it. That's the way I feel. So just go ask, man. You'll be elated with what you find.
So just to wrap up here, first of all, thank you both again. If we can give them a round of applause, please. These guys were awesome. And we can learn so much from them, from their perseverance, dedication, vulnerability, some of the things that they've, shared with us. But just, it's the importance of being in a team environment. Everyone in here, you're on some team in some way, shape, or form, and you're either a coach or being coached. And, it's the people around us that really make us great. And no matter how good of an athlete you are, you need a coach. No matter how good of a business person you are, you need a coach. And, you just need someone outside of the picture frame, right? That messed me up. If you're in the frame, you can't see the picture. That's pretty good. So that's a t-shirt right there or something. So, but just getting that, extra set of eyes on it, the accountability that coaching creates. So I appreciate everyone's attention today. And it's been great to have these two gentlemen up here. So Ryan is going to come up and talk to you guys. But afterwards, both Jordan and Bobby will be in the lobby to hang out and chat up with you guys. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Hey, what about Adam? He did a nice job, didn't he? Awesome. So that was amazing. Thank you, guys. If I can have STG team up real quick, just come up real fast, real quick. So we're going to switch gears. So we have a few minutes, take pictures, do the whole thing with Bobby and Jordan, connect with them. We're going to get started in about 10 minutes or so into our next part here. Go ahead all the way through. So we have 5 SMEs too. SMEs, please. We have 5 different breakouts that we're going to do this afternoon. I think it's 5. Yes, 5. All right. So Sales Accelerator Commercial. Sales Accelerator Commercial. We're going to be led by Jamie Schmidt and Stuart Robles. They're going to head up this commercial. If you are in commercial sales, want to learn commercial sales, want to learn how to coach commercial sales, want to learn baseline selling through the lens of commercial sales, that is what we're going to go into in the Carpenter room. So write that down, Carpenter, if you want to do that. We have residential sales in the Las Colinas East. So if residential retail sales, Chris Wolf, right here in the corner. Chris Wolf. Who else is joining Chris? We got a couple folks here joining Chris. Chris is going to crush it. Get in there. If you're residential, retail, roofing, non-roofing, doesn't matter. All of it. If it's the homeowner's money or financing, paying for the project, Chris Wolf's your guy. He's got incredible program. We launched it last year. We've got great feedback. We're going to spend a few hours diving right in. Where are my guys at? Heath and Ronnie. Are they still here? Okay. We got residential door-to-door. We call it Roof Warrior. It's a door-to-door insurance restoration. So we got Joe Manzella is going to hold it down with Heath and Ronnie from Avco Roofing. They're our subject matter experts there. So those are the 3 sales-specific programs that we have. And what we're actually going to do is coach and train it. And then we're going to do a role play tournament today and begin that process and finish that up tomorrow. I actually have 3 authentic swords that I give because I believe the sword is a image and illustration of a weapon. Because to me, when I learned sales and how a sales process, I believe it became a weapon for me to slash through the forest of unknown and uncertainty and of lack because I had a weapon, and that's changed my life. So I want you guys to be equipped with an actual sword if you win the role play tournament, and we're going to be giving that on Saturday. And so it begins today. Yeah, so don't worry, buddy. We'll ship it for you if you guys win it. And we have 2 more for you non-sales coaches and salespeople participants. We have an executive accelerator. It's going to be led by Keith Canuter. Yes, that's how you pronounce his name, Canuter. All right, for you funny guys. So I still have a little locker room camaraderie talk in there. Got to mix it in. So he's going to be going over a ton of high-level coaching. We have a few customers that have worked with him directly. He does great work. He's a great coach, and he actually heads up all of our coaches. And then we're having Brian Mitchell. Where's my guy? Brian Mitchell. He's our service accelerator subject matter expert. So we have a lot of folks working with. We have over 85 contractors already working with Brian, and they like everybody's coming back another year. They love working with us. Oh, and Ross Friedman in the house. Ross is going to be working with Brian in that room. So this is STG. Like this is the time in which you're going to be experiencing our actual products live and in person, right? Our products of training and coaching. So I want you guys to pick those locations. Let me just read those off to you one more time. Executive accelerators in the amphitheater. If you're an owner and you don't want to go into one of the sales or service, go in the amphitheater. Service is in Las Colinas West. Las Colinas West. Door-to-door Roof Warrior is in the gallery with Heath and Ronnie and Joe. Residential sales with Chris Wolf's in the Las Colinas East. And commercial sales accelerator is in Carpenter. You guys ready? Hey, we're getting almost to the finish line. You guys doing good? Are you guys doing good? All right. You're dismissed. See our friends in the foyer for pictures if you want. If you're a sponsor, meet in the sponsor hall. Meet Adam in the sponsor hall. He's got to have a quick word with you.